Good day, my friend. I wanted to start today's subject, today's Bible chapters off real quick with a couple visual aids for David and Bathsheba. Not visual aids for David and Bathsheba so much, but just I'm going to give you a couple ideas of videos you could watch. What were you expecting exactly? This is Veggie Tales. This is the version of David and Bathsheba that the Veggie Tales creators decided to come up with to teach children about selfishness. King George and the Ducky. Awesome. And this is another thing the Veggie Tales Phil Vischer actually put together, which is What's in the Bible with Buck Denver. He goes through the entire Bible, and he's just finished all Genesis Revelation. You gotta check these out. What's in the Bible with Buck Denver, and he doesn't just cover David and Bathsheba, he covers everything from Genesis to Revelation. And it's pretty neat. It's really good. It's for kids, you know, puppets and the whole thing. Anyways, and the book, this is actually on Rahab. I don't know why I don't have Bathsheba's around here. I think I do, I just don't have the dust jacket for it, so no really neat picture to look at. This actually is a series that Francine Rivers did on Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, Bathsheba, and Mary. It's pretty neat. And it goes into details, of course, you know, fictionalizing true events from the Bible to kind of give us a little more of an idea of what the culture was like during that time and everything. Like, for example, when you look at pictures of David and Bathsheba, the Renaissance and all this, they're white, you know, as Caucasian and white as you can get, which, you know, is probably not very likely. Being the Middle Eastern types that they would probably been very much more dark-skinned, more looking like Israelites that we have today, Palestinians, you know. All the people that in that region of the land weren't like white-skinned as much. But that's, you know, the Renaissance for you. Anyhow, good artwork comes out of there. David's sin with Bathsheba in chapter 11 and 12 kind of hit me, like, you really don't know what to do with that. It's like, I don't know. I know that David at this time, piecing it together, and it's important to remember when you're studying the Bible that these are real people that lived a long time ago, you know, about 1100 BC or so. We know that their stories were written so that we can learn from their mistakes and their triumphs, their faith, and from the wisdom and from the faults. You remember that everything in the Bible is a picture of God's love for us, and how even though we mess up and make mistakes, like David did with Bathsheba, that there's forgiveness and there's mercy. And remember, Jonathan is gone. That's something I highlighted in my Bible, chapter 11, is to remember that David's main source of, you know, friendship and accountability was gone. And David had several wives and several children, I know. So I think his heart was already divided. It wasn't like he was sold out to just one wife. And it's more that he took her and she was already married to somebody that he also killed somebody to have her. And, you know, the whole mess is just, it's like soap opera material, seriously. I mean, he sees her, and there's 4 points, you know, where we're all vulnerable. First of all, sight. You know, he saw her, and that's when he should have just turned away. But he saw her and started thinking about, you know, having her, being with her. And then he sent for her. Second mistake. You know, actually making a move that he had no business making. Now, it's also interesting when you learn more about Bathsheba. She's actually the granddaughter, I think it was the granddaughter of one of David's counselors. One of David's wise men, basically. One of David's advisors. It ends up going against David later on in Samuel. We'll see that he's part of the rebellion against David. Maybe because of his anger at David for what he did with Bathsheba. And then, of course, he spoke to her. And it's not wrong to speak, but he was probably speaking the wrong way. And then, of course, he slept with her. You know, the fourth problem. So, seeing, sending, speaking, sleeping. But it's important to note that, you know, Uriah, his loyalty, you know, Bathsheba's husband, he tries to get Bathsheba to, you know, he tries to get Uriah to go with it. Once he finds out that Bathsheba is pregnant, you know. And I think that there's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of frustration and stress, a lot of things that we don't see from just reading it, because we're just reading it and we read it casually and we know the story so well over the years. And even the first time I read it, I'm like, really? David did what? And he murdered the husband? He tries to get Uriah to go sleep with her, but his loyalty is with the king as far as he's concerned. His brothers are out there fighting battles. Why does he deserve to have pleasure? And then, of course, when he sets up Joab to kill Uriah, and Joab comes back and says it's done, David's response is, and I like this, this says, they shall say to Joab, do not let this displease you that Uriah is dead. For the sword shall devour one as well as another. And I don't know if David meant it to be prophetic almost, but it really did. That same sword that he basically killed Uriah, and had him killed, comes back at him, because it's the sin finds him out. And we read about this in Psalm 51. Psalm 51 is a place to go in your reading time, just to go and look at that real quick. Actually, just a key verse here. It says, be gracious to me, O God, according to your loving kindness, according to the greatness of your compassion, blot out my transgression. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse my sin. For I know my transgressions, my sin is ever before me. Against you and you only I have sinned. And because Nathan in chapter 12 comes to David, and actually this comes up again later, where not this particular sin, but the way Nathan is showing David what happened and how this is your sin, David, that's going on. Later on, when he's having trouble with his son, we'll read about that later, a woman comes to him and does sort of the same thing, giving him a story and then going, this is you, David, why aren't you, look at what you've done. And then sometimes people have to hear a story about somebody else and then to realize that that's what, sometimes you have to watch yourself on camera to see yourself making mistakes or getting frustrated or being impatient, things like that. You don't really see, because you're not going to see yourself from outside. Everybody else can see what you're not seeing. I thought about that today when I was actually getting my car detailed, and I got a little bit frustrated with them for something. And I thought, if I'm acting out of anything that wouldn't be godly, what if the Lord asks me to share with them about him? How are they going to take anything I have to say after I've been rude or frustrated with them, or if they're like bad customer service? It's like, if you're acting not unchristian, how are you going to share Christ? We have to be servants of the King at all times, because at any point in time he could say, I want you to talk about me. Basically, David doesn't make excuses, he just repents, and that's the main thing. I love how, even though after the child, Bathsheba's child dies, David stops fasting and says, I can't go to the child anymore, but I will see the child again. That to me is really important for all of us, for anyone who has lost a child, even an unborn child, that to realize that they are with Jesus in heaven, and we will one day see them again. That gives me a lot of peace. That should give us peace, knowing that he takes care of the little ones, and he always has his eyes on the little ones. So chapter 11 and 12 is pretty much it tonight, for now, David and Bathsheba. And just, keep pondering that, what you can do to avoid, obviously, lust and temptation, going to focus your heart on God, but also to have accountability. Have somebody out there, like I have in Jonathan, who you can stay accountable to, so that even when the world tries to sway you away from walking a life of integrity and purity and righteousness like he wants us to, you can go to him and say, Lord, help me in this area. And I hope that he does help you in every area that you need. And just remember the words, that he says, be, cleanse me, O Lord, and he will cleanse you of all unrighteousness. Shalom, my friend.